So I think I know what game I'm gonna play today. Just need to pop this bad boy in, and there we go. Now I just need to turn the power on and, maybe if I try blowing into it. Bad idea. Hey Rangers, welcome to Super Important Reviews. My name's Steve, and today we're going over the NECA's NES Godzilla Monster of Monsters Godzilla action figure. This is based off the NES game Godzilla Monsters of Monsters, which I actually own and have played, even though my cartridge is actually kind of poopy. But what we're actually planning on doing was playing this game a little bit for you guys for the intro, just to show you guys what this figure was actually all about. But the game recorder that Arnez picked up actually pooped on us, so I'm just going to describe it for you guys, sadly. Which pretty much the game was just your standard side-scroller where you could play as Godzilla or Mothra, even though you never wanted to play as Mothra because Mothra sucked and Godzilla is way OP for the video game. But how the game worked was you moved along this checkerboard looking thing, which actually they have on the inside of this. This is pretty much how you got around on the map inside of the game. And when you moved around on the peg to each of these sections, you played a little side-scrolling level. Now once you made it towards the end, which I kind of wish they actually showed the boss monsters, because you would also see those on this map as well. When you made it to the boss monster, you have to fight the boss. And actually that's where this kind of screen would show up, and then you have the monster on the other side, and you just start kicking and doing your atomic breath until you won, which Godzilla did very easily. But the funny thing about this game is one, literally the screen was almost always filled with enemies. Like, it was just pretty much like, that's what made the Mothra missions a little bit more harder when you're trying to play with her, was because you literally were trying to dodge things. Anything hit you, it literally just knocked you, stunned you on the ground. While Godzilla could actually just pretty much trek through the majority of the level with nothing really bothering. And he has his atomic breath too, which pretty much just wiped the screen clean for you. And the other funny thing too is if you're playing the boss battles and you're a Mothra, anytime something smacked in you, you're just like, no, why do you do these things? And it just literally made you useless in the game. But for Godzilla, you pretty much, that's when the game became kind of fair. And it's really cool that they decided to give us the Godzilla because, one, it's pretty much it's a retool of the 1984 Godzilla. But Godzilla was definitely the more memorable guy from the video game because it was the one you could actually play with that really could get you anywhere through the missions, even though Mothra could go a little bit farther. And in this game, too, they also had other things referenced in this game that weren't actually from Godzilla films. It was pretty much if Toho owned it, probably made its way into his game. Like, it had the Octagon you can see in the background, you actually fight the thing. And it even had the giant squid monster Gazora from Space Amoeba, which really has nothing to do with Godzilla. Like, that is the first boss you fight in this game. You bought this game to fight against other Godzilla monsters, and your first introduction to any of the boss fights is some random thing you probably didn't know of as a kid. And overall, the game kind of works, but it's a bit of a fail. And hopefully this action figure actually is better than that, even though, for starters, for the packaging, love what they do with these figures. I've actually been wanting to pick one of these style action figures up for a little while now because I love how they do the boxes and make it look very retro for the video game, especially the front, very reminiscent of the cover art for the NES. You have your Toho logo, the NECA logo on the bottom here, very reminiscent of the Nintendo logo. Warning choking hazards. For the side of the packaging, get nice Godzilla, real toys. Other side of the packaging, literally the exact same thing. Same with the top, just got Godzilla. And then for the back of the packaging, just shows you the figure side of the packaging. The Great Movie Monster is an action figure. Tells you a little bit about the guy. If you guys want to read it real quick, I'll let you. And then on the bottom, absolutely nothing, just some legal mumbo jumbo right here. And the cool thing is, if you open up the package, which I kind of showed you guys already a little bit, you get the nice display right here of what you literally saw in the game for the navigation right here. Even though, again, we'd like to have seen a boss battle, but probably for rights reasons, this is the reason why it didn't actually show up here. And then you get the awesome looking Godzilla right here. Like, just leaving this thing in the packaging, it already wins for me because this looks really good just the way it sits. But I love how they got the Godzilla up here with his level, power life bar. Those powers really low, so he must use his atomic breath. Even got a little bit of the background inside of here for the game, which I imagine you can use as a display, but we'll find out after we get this guy opened up out of his cardboard prison. Alright, so now that we have Godzilla open up out of his cardboard prison, you see here I have him sitting with the backdrop here, because I think this is actually a really cool display option, especially if you don't want to display him inside of the packaging, because you're like me and like opening your figures and actually playing around with them a little bit. But this actually works really well for me, because what the backdrop is literally just ripped off from inside of the video game, which I think this is the Earth mission. I'm not 100%, but it looks pretty reminiscent of that. Looks really cool, and I really love just how it really just helps to translate the Godzilla a little bit better, especially with his overall pixelated look. Because without this, you just have him sitting on your shelf. Most people are going to kind of wonder why your Godzilla looks a little bit funny and has some pink eye right there. But if you have the backdrop right here, people start kind of understanding what's going on with this action figure. And personally, I just think this makes for a nice piece to really help accentuate the figure. And then bringing this guy in for a closer look at his details, they actually look pretty good. Which he's literally just a retool of the 1984 Godzilla. But one thing I want to point out is that initially I was going to bash the crap out of this figure. Because when I first see the pictures of it, it just looked kind of weird for me. And then that figure, originally, it was a good figure, but had some issues. And then this being a retool, it just literally didn't get me quite that excited. But after picking up this game and actually getting to play it a bit, actually looking at the sprite from inside the video game, like, that actually looks pretty good in my opinion. Like, they did actually a pretty good job of taking this figure and representing the actual pixelated Godzilla inside of the video game pretty well, in my opinion. And I'm not 100% sure what the NES Godzilla was actually supposed to be, because I know the game was released in 1989 stateside, and I think it was 88 in Japan, and which is literally 4 years after this movie was released, so I don't fully believe that this was actually the Godzilla model that they were using, especially on the video game. They actually show the 1954, which, spoilers, are going to be releasing a 54 Godzilla in the Classics line soon, which that might have been cool to see, especially with the stupid dorsal fins, which we'll go over in a second, which aren't actually stupid, but just stupid huge. Which would have made a little bit more sense to me, because with the 54 going to be coming out in the near future, why wouldn't you use that for the video game that actually has them on the cover? But again, I think this guy actually looks really good in comparison to the actual sprite from the video game. And overall, I actually think this figure is actually really sweet overall. Because for the paint job, he has this really nice pixelated look, which really is very reminiscent from the video game. We see here it has a lot of little black textures on his arms, on his body, a little bit on his head. Same on the other side, so you can kind of pose him both ways. Because he's kind of more meant to be posed in a side fashion profile to replicate the video game. So looking at him from angles is a little bit weird, even though for the back he actually looks pretty sweet too. Kind of has this nice kind of shadowed look to it. And even from the front, it's a little bit more plain, but still looks really good. Like, overall, the paint job, I actually give it a pretty solid pass. And I really love the dorsal spines on this guy too. Look really nice. Really love the varying shades of this teal, and then it kind of gets into more darker color schemes coming along the back here, and still holds up that pixelated look. Looks really cool. Which I actually grabbed my original 1984. If you guys haven't seen the review for this one, just click the card right down. But when I did this figure, again, I like the figure, just wasn't super impressed with it. Like, this figure isn't my favorite out of the classic line. But in comparison, I actually think this guy stands out a little bit more on your shelf, especially with the color scheme on him. But one thing I want to go over real quick is just mainly what's different, which you can kind of notice the paint job on these is vastly different between the two, because he's more your traditional Godzilla look, and this is all the bright colors. But pretty much the only major difference that I'm noticing other than the paint job is right here for the dorsal spines. You'll notice that my one complaint with this guy was actually that his dorsal spines were a little bit too small in my opinion, especially looking at the actual film. Well, this guy is stupid huge to help replicate the video game. And actually, I don't know why, just this seems like a more accurate representation of the guy from 1984, or Godzilla 1985, Return to Godzilla. And it's just kind of funny that just for the video game, I like this a little bit better personally, because if they would have made these a little bit bigger, then this guy would have stood out a little bit more for me. But this actually looks really sweet. And then that's pretty much it for the details, because the toenails looked kind of huge on this guy, but looking at this Godzilla 2, they look pretty well elongated as well, especially you can see right there where they have the giant nails sticking out. And that's literally all you're getting for the major differences between the two. So mainly just to go over briefly on the details, since I already kind of reviewed this figure a little while back. But for the head sculpt, looks pretty nice. Has a huge jaws right here, which are really thick for this guy. But it really overall gives him a really nice menacing look. Really like the paint job that they actually did on the mouth here. Looks really nice. Really love the white teeth here. Got a nice blood red for the tongue. Same blood red for the eyes to give him that really nice, fierce look. Really like the paint job on the skin here. Looks really nice. You get the skin textures on here with the front being more of this bubble kind of pattern, while you get the normal wrinkles you see on the rest of the scales right here coming around the rest of his body here. And then more of the bubble texture on the bottom of the tail. For the dorsal spines, again, stupid huge. Which these are just made out of the more softer plastic right here, so you actually get a little bit of pliability to them, so you don't actually have to worry about these things snapping, especially if he takes a little bit of a fall. Definitely don't have to worry about anything really happening about there, other than maybe some scuffs on the paint. And then for the tail here, which is, I maybe would have liked to see a little bit more of the lighter shade of teal on the dorsal spines along here. But overall, works pretty well for me. Looks really nice. Overall, so his arms look really pretty nice. The one thing that I kind of wish on this Godzilla, because especially since it's supposed to be the 84, and they might fix it a little bit for me, but it makes sense that they didn't actually go about this. But I would have liked to have seen a more puffy of a chest, because that was my one major complaint on the 84, is that he has this kind of beer gut kind of going on the bottom here, and it would have kind of helped to not show off this a little bit more if they would have elongated the chest a little bit, just to give him a little bit more of a beefy appearance. Because that's how it looked in the film. Would have liked to have seen it on the actual figure here as well. It's not bad, it's just something that I would have really liked to have seen. Because he definitely has those childbearing hips, and it really would have just helped to not show the lower section of this guy off a little bit more if this would have been a little bit bigger. Especially it would have made the head look quite as huge as it really does. And then for his chubby legs, look really nice as well. Again, paint job looks really nice. Nails are nicely painted on the feet here. You even get some peg holes on the bottom if you want to put this guy on a stand. And overall, for the details, they look really good. Still has a few of the same problems that the 84 has that never really rectified, except for the really did elongate the dorsal fin. So thanks for listening to me, even though it's a little bit too much, but it works really well in reference for the video game. So overall, in terms of looks for the video game, I actually give this guy a pass in terms of just the details and trying to replicate that actual sprite. They did an awesome job on that. And then for his articulation, head could look up about that far, down about that far, can rotate all the way around, has a little bit of a pivot to it, mouth can move up and down. Lower part of the neck also has a little bit of a bend to it, can rotate. Also for his shoulders, can move up about that far, down about that far, can rotate all the way around. Has a rotation here at the upper part of the elbow. Has a little bit of a bend to it. Not a whole lot. Gets about that far straight. Then once you bend it in, moves out about that far. For his hands, can rotate around. There's a little bit of play to it because it's on a ball joint, but nothing too crazy. For his waist, can rotate all the way around. It's a nice wiggle to it. For his legs, can move outwards about that far. Inwards about that far. Yeah, I can get him to do the splits if you really wanted him to. Legs can rotate all the way around, but they take a little bit of work to get that to do it. For the upper part of the knee here, can rotate all the way around on a hinge joint, so you can get a bend to it, but it might take a little bit of work just to get that to work in. But bends back about that far, straightens up about yay far. For his feet, can rotate all the way around. Actually has a really nice pivot to it, which is something that's really nice. And then for his tail, it has a few segmented joints right here, right here, and right here. And this is where you connect the tail from outside of the packaging, which actually something I would just point out real quick is that you actually have to attach the ball joint to the tail here. And you just literally pop it on, really easy to do. But for the tail articulation, his tail can bend about that far up, about that far down without popping anything out. A little bit side to side. And then the rest of the tail from here down is just your normal bendy tail. So you just pretty much bend it to any position that you want it to be in. And for some quick comparison, here we have the NES Godzilla compared next to the 1994 NECA Godzilla and the 2014 Godzilla. And here's some of his foes from the Bandai Creation line with the 1974 Mecha Godzilla and the GMK King Ghidorah. And here is some Pacific Rim figures with the original release Gypsy Danger and Coyote Tango. And we're bringing them back because here he is compared next to Failhead. And here's some SH Monstars figures with the 1964 1994 Godzilla and the 1996 Gamera. So overall with the NES Godzilla, I actually really love this figure, especially since I had pretty low expectations for this guy initially picking him up, because after seeing some of the pictures, he just didn't really look all that great to me. But after getting him in hand, I'm actually really impressed with how great this thing looks next to the sprite from the original video game. And I just love the packaging of this figure. Like, I love that packaging. So if you guys are really into NES games, have big nostalgia for the original NES Godzilla game, and are just fans of giant monsters in general, then you need the Monsters of Monster in your collection. So what do you guys think? Have you guys played Godzilla Monster and Monsters? What's your favorite Godzilla game, or is Halo just more your thing? Please let us know in the comments. Let us know closer pictures on Facebook. If you want to click the link description below, help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button. Subscribe to become a Ranger today, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye.